The city never slept. Not really. Its streets pulsed with danger, whispers of deals made in smoke-filled rooms, and the distant echo of sirens that marked a world where power was the only law that mattered. High above the chaos, in the penthouse of the Collins crime empire, Collins, the alpha mafia boss feared by all, surveyed the city through floor-to-ceiling windows. The moonlight glinted off the expensive cufflinks on his hands, and his sharp gaze tracked the city as though he could see every betrayal before it happened. Tonight, his attention wasn't on the city, though. It was on the small, trembling figure who had just been delivered to him. Escher, the young Omega, had been sold to Collins' men by a rival family, a gift meant to demonstrate their compliance, or perhaps to incite conflict. Either way, Collins had accepted the Omega, not out of sentiment, but curiosity. There was something fragile in Asher that intrigued him, something dangerous in how helpless he seemed. Collins had always been drawn to Omega weaknesses, not just for pleasure, but because there was an intoxicating thrill in dominating someone utterly dependent on him. The door to the penthouse opened with a soft yet deliberate click. Collins didn't turn. He could feel the presence of his newest acquisition before he saw him. The scent of fear, of pheromones slightly clinging to untrained restraint, the subtle tremor in muscles that screamed submission. Asher, Collins said, his voice low, smooth yet commanding. The Omega flinched, startled. He was young, barely 20, with wide, fearful eyes the color of storm clouds. His hair fell in soft waves around his pale face, framing features so delicate that Collins had to suppress the urge to trace them with a possessive hand. Asher's clothes were simple, almost threadbare, the faint smell of sweat and faint perfume clinging to him. Almost threadbare, the faint smell of sweat and faint perfume clinging to him. I'm here because you want me? Asher's voice cracked, uncertainty lacing every syllable. Collins finally turned, letting his intense amber eyes meet Asher's. You are here because I want you, not because of anyone else, not because of your so-called family. You're mine now. The words landed like steel chains on Asher's chest. He had been prepared for fear, for captivity, maybe even for death. But hearing those words said so plainly, so confidently, stirred something terrifying within him. He wanted to resist. He should resist. But even as he straightened his spine, his body betrayed him. A shiver ran down his back, his pulse jumped, and a heat he barely understood began to stir. Collins stepped closer, each movement measured and deliberate. The alpha scent enveloped Asher, strong, commanding, and suffocating in its dominance. Collins circled him like a predator studying its prey, one hand brushing against Asher's jaw in a gesture both threatening and intimate. You're scared, Collins observed, almost amused. Good. You should be. Fear makes Omegas responsive. Teachable. Asher swallowed hard, his throat dry. I don't want to be your... Shoo, Collins interrupted, his finger resting under Asher's chin, tilting his head up. Do not speak out of turn. You will learn your place, Omega. That place is beneath me. The words were like fire searing into Asher's mind. Beneath him. Submissive. His body reacted even as his mind screamed for him to flee, to fight. But escape wasn't an option. Not here. Not ever. He had been brought into a world where defiance would cost him far more than freedom. It might cost him his life. Collins studied the Omega for a long moment, and then, with a flick of his wrist, signaled for the guards to leave. Alone. For now. I want to see how you behave without an audience. Asher's heart raced. Alone with Collins? The thought should have terrified him beyond reason. And yet, he couldn't deny the pull in his chest, the strange warmth in his stomach that seemed to coil tighter with every step Collins took toward him. You will learn quickly, Collins continued, his voice dropping to a near whisper, or I will teach you the hard way. Your obedience will bring you pleasure. Your resistance will only hurt you. The Alpha's words stirred a mix of dread and something darker within Asher. He had read stories, whispered rumors of a strange, intense bond between Alphas and Omegas, the way pheromones could make even the strongest resistances crumble. And now, standing so close to Collins, Asher felt it, not just in his chest, but in his groin, a deep, relentless ache that made him acutely aware of how powerless he was. I don't. Asher tried to speak, his voice trembling, but Colin's hand silenced him again. Collins leaned in, his breath hot against Asher's ear. You'll learn Omega. You'll learn what it means to be mine, not just in body, but in mind, in every thought, every shiver, every need. Asher's knees threatened to give way. His pulse raced, his body betraying his fear with a burning, intoxicating warmth. He wanted to hate Collins. He should hate him. But every instinct, every primal part of him, screamed that he was already belonging, already owned, already marking him, physically, mentally, emotionally, in ways he didn't understand yet. Collins pulled back slightly, just enough to let Asher catch his breath. Then, with a flick of his wrist, he indicated the room. This will be your chamber. You will sleep here. You will eat here. And you will wait for my instruction. Asher swallowed, staring at the plush, enormous bed, the heavy drapes, and the cold gleam of the room. Everything screamed wealth, power, control. And yet, it also screamed his entrapment. I don't know if I can. Asher's voice broke, barely audible. You will, Collins said simply, because you have no choice. And because, whether you like it or not, your body already knows what it wants. Asher's gaze shot up to Collins. It or not, your body already knows what it wants. Asher's gaze shot up to Collins, confusion and fear warring in his wide eyes. What do you mean? Collins smiled, not kindly, but with something dangerous and possessive. Your scent betrays you. Your heat will come soon, and when it does, you will be mine. Completely. Do you understand, Omega? Yes, Asher whispered, barely able to meet the Alpha's gaze. The word felt like surrender, but at the same time, it was the only truth his body could admit. Good, Collins said. He stepped back, his amber eyes scanning Asher's trembling form. Tonight you will sleep. Tomorrow we begin your training. You will learn the rules. You will learn obedience. And if you survive, perhaps I might even let you enjoy your submission. The last words hung in the air, like a promise and a threat. Asher collapsed onto the bed, pulling the thin blanket around him. He felt exposed, naked and terrified, but also impossibly drawn to Collins in a way that confused him. His mind screamed for escape, for freedom, for rebellion. But his body ached to be claimed, to be dominated, to be touched and guided by the Alpha standing so close, so powerful, so terrifyingly in control. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time had no meaning here. All that mattered was the sharp, relentless awareness of Collins' presence, the unspoken promise of ownership, and the heat slowly building in Asher's chest. Collins finally left, closing the door behind him with the same deliberate precision he had used to enter. Alone, Asher curled into himself, shivering, afraid, and hopelessly aware of the strange, intoxicating desire that had begun to bloom inside him. He was trapped. He was powerless. And yet, he couldn't deny the pull, the ache, the burning awareness that he already belonged to Collins. And deep down, a part of him, terrified and unwilling, wondered if he even wanted to escape. Because Collins had claimed him, body, mind, and soul. And Asher's Omega instincts whispered that there was no fighting it, no resisting it. Not now, not ever. The first night had just begun. The sun had barely risen when Asher awoke, drenched in sweat, his body still humming with the lingering tension from the night before. His mind was a tangle of fear, confusion, and a strange, unbidden anticipation that left his stomach twisting in knots. The first night under Collins' roof had been unbearable, and yet some part of him felt unsettled, yearning, and strangely alert to the Alpha's absence. Collins' presence was everywhere, even when he wasn't in the room. The faint scent of the Alpha clung to the mansion, sharp, commanding, and intoxicating. Asher's cheeks burned as he realized that even in the moments Collins was away, his body was already reacting. He had never experienced anything like this, and the awareness made him panic. "Morning, Omega," a deep, commanding voice said from the doorway. Collins stood there, dressed in a tailored suit that emphasized the hard lines of his body, amber eyes glinting, with a predator's amusement. Sleep well. Asher froze, his knees pulling him up to sit on the edge of the bed. Yes, he stammered, though his body betrayed him with a tremor. He could smell Colin's alpha pheromones even more strongly now, mingling with the faint traces of his own, hinting at what was to come. Colin stepped closer, each footfall deliberate, and Asher's pulse raced uncontrollably. Good, Colin said, voice low, almost a growl. Because today, we begin your training. Asher's stomach churned at the words. Training. He didn't know what to expect, but instinctively he knew it wouldn't be gentle. Omegas were meant to submit, and Collins, the alpha who claimed him, would not tolerate resistance. You will obey me, Collins continued, circling Asher slowly. Every order, every command, without hesitation. Do you understand? Yes, Asher whispered, his throat dry. He swallowed, trying to steady the rapid beating of his heart. I understand. Good. Collins reached out, his large hand brushing against Asher's jaw, tilting his head upward. The contact sent Sage brushing against Asher's jaw, tilting his head upward. The contact sent shivers through Asher's spine. You smell exquisite. Already your heat is awakening. Soon your body will demand what it wants, and what it wants is me. Do not try to resist it, Omega. It will only make your submission sweet. Sweeter. Asher's breath hitched. He wanted to step back to push Collins away, but his legs refused to move. The heat building inside him was relentless, curling through his veins, awakening desires he barely understood. He was an Omega, young and untrained, and the Alpha standing before him was everything he needed and everything he feared. Collins leaned closer, his lips brushing Asher's ear. You will learn, Omega. You will learn to accept your place. Under me for me. And when the time comes, you will enjoy it. Your heat will make you weak, but I will make you strong in the ways that matter. Asher whimpered softly, hiding his face in his hands. His body was betraying him, his instincts clawing for release, even as his mind screamed to resist. He had never felt this helpless, never this acutely aware of another person's dominance over him. Collins chuckled, a low, dangerous sound that made Asher's pulse race. I see you're already trembling. Good. That is exactly how you should feel. Vulnerable. Mine. The Alpha's hands moved to Asher's waist, pressing firmly, sending waves of heat through the Omega's body. Asher gasped, his knees buckling slightly. Collins caught him, holding him steady, his amber eyes boring into Asher's wide, fearful ones. Do you feel it, Omega? Collins whispered. The way your body responds to me? The way your scent clings to me? Your mind already whether you accept it or not. Yes. Asher breathed, his voice shaking. I feel it. Good. Collins' hand moved lower, tracing the outline of Asher's hip, sending a jolt through the young Omega. Then you'll learn obedience. You will learn submission. And you will learn pleasure. The next hours were a blur of instructions, corrections, and testing boundaries. Collins was methodical, unyielding, but not without a perverse sense of care. He corrected Asher harshly when he hesitated, but praised him when he obeyed, letting the Omega feel the intense, intoxicating mixture of fear and reward. Asher's heat intensified with every command, his body betraying him even as he tried to remain composed. Collins' dominance was overwhelming, but beneath it, there was a strange tenderness, a recognition of Asher's vulnerability, a protection that was almost intoxicating in itself. By mid-afternoon, Asher could barely stand. He had been trained, teased, and pushed beyond his limits, his body buzzing with need, his mind spinning with confusion. He had learned a simple truth. Collins was merciless, but Collins was also precise, controlling, and terrifyingly aware of every desire Asher hadn't even admitted to himself. And then it happened. Asher's heat, unrestrained and intense, finally overtook him. His body shook violently, his breath shallow and fast. Collins watched, unmoved, his expression one of calm ownership. Good, he murmured. Now you will learn the true meaning of your submission. You will let go, Omega. You will let me take care of you. Asher's protests were weak, barely coherent as his instincts took over. His body pressed against Collins, needing, craving, and unable to resist. Every touch, every command from the Alpha drove him closer to the edge, and in that moment all fear, all resistance, all pride dissolved into something raw and unrelenting. Colin's hands were gentle but firm, guiding Asher, marking him with touches that burned into memory, claiming him utterly. He whispered possessive words into Asher, marking him with touches that burned into memory, claiming him utterly. He whispered possessive words into Asher's ear, words that made the young Omega shiver with both fear and desire. By the end, Asher lay exhausted, trembling, and utterly claimed. Collins stood over him, his amber eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "You see, Omega," he said softly, "obedience is rewarding. Resistance is futile. And your heat, your need, only proves what I already know. You're mine." Asher could only nod weakly, his chest heaving, his mind a swirl of exhaustion, heat, and undeniable attraction. He wanted to hate Collins. You should hate him. But the truth, raw and undeniable, was that he had been claimed, and a part of him, despite the fear, wanted it. Collins leaned down, raw and undeniable, was that he had been claimed, and a part of him, despite the fear, wanted it. Collins leaned down, brushing his lips against Asher's forehead, a gesture almost tender, almost caring, before pulling back to observe the Omega's reaction. "Rest, Omega," he commanded. "You have much to learn, and I will enjoy every moment of teaching you." Asher nodded again, too drained to speak, his body still humming with residual heat. Alone, he curled into himself, overwhelmed by everything he had experienced. Fear, desire, pain, and pleasure mingled in an intoxicating mix that left him dizzy. For the first time, he realized the truth. His body, his mind, his instincts, they belonged to Collins already. And try as he might to resist, there was no fighting it. The Alpha had claimed him completely, and Asher knew deep down that there was no escaping the inevitable submission, no denying the heat that would continue to bind him to Collins forever. The day ended with silence, but it a charged silence, filled with unspoken promises, raw desires, and the undeniable bond that had begun to form. Asher had survived his first day, and in doing so, had discovered the depth of his own submission. Collins had won the first battle, and the Omega was only beginning to understand what it truly meant to be owned. The Collins estate was quiet, too quiet. Even in a city that never truly slept, the mansion seemed to hum with anticipation, the air thick with the unspoken knowledge of power. Collins prowled the halls like a lion within his domain, senses sharp, instincts attuned to every sound, every movement. Something was off. Asher noticed it immediately. He had been walking the perimeter of the courtyard, trying to clear his mind after another grueling day of training. His body still bore the marks of Collins' dominance. Faint traces of bruises where hands had pressed too hard, lingering warmth from the Alpha's pheromones, and the ache of constant tension in muscles unaccustomed to complete submission. "Collins?" Asher's voice wavered as he approached the Alpha in the study. Collins was leaning against the massive desk, hands steepled, amber eyes piercing. The Alpha's scent was heavier than usual, almost violent in its intensity. "Do you sense it too?" Asher asked hesitantly, his chest tightening. "Something wrong?" Collins didn't answer immediately. He walked toward Asher with a predator's grace, each step deliberate, commanding. "Yes," he finally said. "They're coming. The rival family. I've known for weeks they would make their move eventually. But tonight, they've chosen to strike. They want you, Omega, and I will not let them take you." Fear clawed at Asher's chest, but beneath it was something darker, a pang of jealousy he hadn't fully understood until now. He wanted to belong to Collins completely, but the thought of another Alpha trying to take him away made his body coil, heat rising unbidden. "I don't want to be taken," Asher whispered, almost pleading. Collins' hand landed firmly on Asher's shoulder, grounding him, reminding him of the Alpha's possession. "You won't be. Not while I am here. You're mine, Omega, and anyone who thinks otherwise will learn the consequences in blood." The warning hung heavy in the air. Collins moved like liquid shadow, preparing the mansion, alerting his men, and positioning defenses. Asher followed, trembling with both fear and excitement. There was no denying it. The Alpha's protective instincts, fierce and unyielding, stirred something primal inside him. Hours later, the attack came. The rival family's men stormed the estate under cover of darkness, armed and vicious. Collins met them without hesitation, a whirlwind of controlled fury. He fought with precision, a blend of raw power and calculated skill, taking down each intruder with terrifying efficiency. Asher watched from a hidden balcony, heart hammering. He had never seen anyone move like Collins. Each motion was deliberate, controlled, commanding. The Alpha's presence dominated everything. Even the chaos of the fight seemed to bend to his will. And yet, fear twisted within Asher. One stray blow, one miscalculated step, and Collins could be hurt. Or worse, the Omega could be taken. His body reacted with a familiar ache of heat, pulses of desire threatening to overwhelm him at the most dangerous moment. Finally, the battle ended. Collins stood amidst the aftermath, breathing heavily, amber eyes glowing like fire. Not a scratch on him, not a falter in his dominance. The attackers lay incapacitated, broken, and defeated. He turned to Asher, whose knees nearly buckled at the sight. Collins' hand lifted, brushing the hair from the Omega's face, a gesture both possessive and intimate. "Do you see now, Omega?" he asked softly. "I protect what is mine. You are mine. Always." Asher could barely nod, overwhelmed by a mixture of relief, fear, and the unmistakable pull of submission. "Why, yes, Collins," he whispered, voice trembling. Collins' amber eyes softened just slightly, and he stepped closer, lowering his head until their foreheads touched. The Alpha scent enveloped Asher completely, intoxicating and possessive. "I need to make this official," Collins murmured. "To mark you, so everyone knows, so no one dares challenge what is mine." Asher's heart jumped. He had heard rumors of Alpha markings, permanent signs of possession, physical and biological. The thought of being marked, of having the Alpha's claim permanently etched into him, made him shiver with both fear and an unexpected, desperate longing. "Collins, he started, but Collins silenced him with a finger against his lips. "You do not speak, Omega. You obey. You feel. And right now, you will feel what it means to be mine." Collins guided Asher to the study, a private room away from prying eyes. The air was thick with the Alpha's scent, and the tension between them crackled, almost tangible. Asher's knees were weak, heat coursing through his body in waves that made it impossible to think clearly. Every instinct screamed for release, for submission, for ownership. Collins' hands roamed over Asher's body, claiming him in slow, deliberate touches. The marking was not just physical, it was biological. The Alpha's pheromones mixed with Asher's, binding them together, intertwining their scents in a declaration of possession. Collins' amber eyes never left the Omega's, watching, commanding, controlling. Asher gasped, shivering, every nerve alight. "See Collins?" he stammered, barely able to speak, barely able to resist the need that pulsed through him. "Yes, Omega," Collins whispered, his voice both commanding and intimate. "I claim you. Every part of you, body, mind, soul. This is no longer a game. You belong to me." The marking left faint, glowing impressions along Asher's skin, signs that could only be seen by those attuned to Omegaverse bonds. They were permanent, undeniable. And as the final touches were made, Asher's body finally surrendered completely. He melted into the Alpha's arms, trembling with a mixture of pain, pleasure, and release that only submission could bring. Collins held him tightly, amber eyes smoldering with dominance, and something softer, something protective. "Do you understand now, Omega?" he murmured. "No one will touch you. No one will claim you. You are mine. Always." Asher nodded, tears pricking the corners of his eyes. "Yes, Collins, I'm yours." The words felt foreign and terrifying, and yet they were true. The marking, the Alpha's protection, the bond forming between them, it was undeniable. Asher's fear mingled with longing, confusion with acceptance. He had resisted for so long, fought against the inevitable. And yet, under Colin's gaze, under Colin's control, he realized the truth. He had never truly wanted to fight at all. The moment lingered, charged with intimacy, desire, and ownership. Collins pressed a soft kiss to the top of Asher's head, a silent promise of protection and dominance. Rest now, Omega. Your body will heal and your mind will adjust. But remember, this bond is permanent. You are mine and I am yours. Forever. Asher curled into Colin's arms, exhausted and trembling, overwhelmed by the heat still lingering within him. He knew that he had crossed a line, one from which there was no return. He was marked, claimed, and bound to Collins in every way that mattered. And somewhere deep inside, as fear, desire, and heat coiled together, Asher realized he didn't want to escape anymore. Because Collins, merciless, powerful, terrifying Collins, was his alpha, and he was completely, irrevocably the Omega's. The city had quieted after the chaos of the rival attack. Collins' mansion was calm, yet the air inside was thick with tension, heat, and unspoken desire. Asher sat on the edge of the rival attack. Collins' mansion was calm, yet the air inside was thick with tension, heat, and unspoken desire. Asher sat on the edge of the bed, his body still humming from the phenomenal marking Collins had claimed him with. He could feel every lingering trace of the alpha's dominance, every pull of instinct that reminded him. He belonged here, under Collins' control. Collins entered the room, the alpha's presence alone making Asher shiver. His amber eyes softened just slightly, but the underlying dominance, the dangerous, possessive edge, remained. He closed the door behind him, cutting off the outside world entirely. "Sit," Collins commanded, voice low, yet resonant, vibrating against Asher's very core. Asher obeyed, knees brushing together as he perched on the edge of the bed. His body still quivered from residual heat, but his mind was sharp with anticipation. He had already surrendered to Collins' dominance, yet a part of him longed for confirmation, for intimacy that went beyond physical control. Collins stepped closer, every movement precise, predatory, and deliberate. His hand brushed against Asher's jaw, tilting his head up. "Do you understand what it means now, Omega?" Asher's throat tightened. "Why, yes, Collins. I belong to you." A slow, dangerous smile spread across Collins' face. "Not just in body," he said, leaning close enough that Asher could feel his heat against his own, "but in mind and soul. Every thought, every shiver, every heartbeat mine." The words sent a shiver down Asher's spine. He wanted to resist, to fight, but his body betrayed him once again, reacting to the sheer force of Collins' presence. His Omega instinct screamed for submission, for claiming, for the alpha who had already taken him completely. Collins' hands RO, his Omega instinct screamed for submission, for claiming, for the alpha who had already taken him completely. Collins' hands roamed over Asher's body, each touch a mix of dominance and care. His fingers traced over Asher's chest, shoulders, and sides, marking, claiming, leaving traces of his alpha essence behind. The intensity of Collins' amber gaze never wavered. It pinned Asher in place, made him see clearly that there was no escape, no choice left. He was bound, owned, and cherished. "Do you trust me, Omega?" Collins asked softly, almost tenderly, though there was still an edge that reminded Asher of the alpha's power. "Yes, Asher," whispered his voice shaking. I trust you." "Good," Collins murmured, pressing a slow kiss to the crown of Asher's head, his lips warm and commanding. "Because from this moment forward, you are mine. No one else, no one will claim you. You're my Omega, my bond, my everything." Asher's breath hitched. Every nerve in his body was alive, every instinct screaming at him. He had never felt so completely seen, so completely wanted, so completely owned, and yet he had never felt so completely seen, so completely wanted, so completely owned, and yet he had never felt so safe. Collins' dominance wasn't just about control. It was about protection, possession, and a fierce, undeniable love that burned beneath the surface. The alpha guided Asher to lie back on the bed, positioning him with gentle firmness that left no room for hesitation. Colin's hands traced over Asher's form, mapping every curve, every sensitive spot, claiming him fully with both touch and scent. The pheromones between them mingled, solidifying the bond further, leaving Asher trembling with need. "You feel it, don't you, Omega?" Collins whispered, fingers brushing over sensitive skin. "The way your body responds, the way your heat intensifies, all because you are mine. Completely." Asher gasped, unable to form coherent words. "Why, yes." "Collins," he murmured, voice barely audible, yet filled with undeniable truth. Collins pressed closer, lips brushing against Asher's ear. "And now you will understand fully the meaning of being bonded. Your submission is not just obedience. It is desire, it is love, it is trust. It is surrendering to me completely and knowing that I will never let harm come to you." Asher shivered, his body trembling under the alpha's touch. His heart pounded, mind clouded with lust and submission. But deep within, a calm acceptance began to settle. He belonged to Collins, in every sense, and he wouldn't have it any other way. Collins' hands moved lower, pressing against Asher's hips, trailing along the curves of his thighs. The heat inside Asher became overwhelming, a wildfire of desire and instinct that left him gasping, writhing, begging silently for release. Collins smiled darkly, amused by the Omega's need. "You've been through much, Omega," Collins murmured, voice low, commanding. "You've fought resistance, yet your body has betrayed you at every turn. That is your nature, and your reward is the pleasure of submission. Accept it. Accept me." Asher nodded, words failing him. The surrender was total. His body quaked, every nerve ending alive, every instinct pointing to the alpha who had claimed him. He felt the marks Collins had left on him, felt the bond in his chest, in his mind, in every fiber of his being. He was utterly irrevocably owned. Collins leaned down, pressing his lips to Asher's, a kiss that was fierce, commanding, and possessive. The taste of the alpha, the heat of his dominance, burned into Asher's senses, leaving him gasping and trembling. Their bodies pressed together, an intricate dance of need and control, desire and care. "Mine," Collins growled against Asher's lips, hands tangling in his hair, tilting his head back. "You are mine. Every part of you, Omega. Forever." "Yes." "Collins, yours," Asher moaned, body arching against the alpha, mind and soul surrendering fully. The night stretched on, a symphony of heat, submission, and dominance. Collins' hands, lips, and presence guided Asher through the intensity of his Omega instincts, through waves of heat and desire. The bond between them grew stronger, deeper, more permanent with every whispered word, every mark, every touch. When the first light of dawn crept through the curtains, Asher lay curled against Collins' chest, exhausted, trembling, yet filled with a deep, unshakable contentment. Collins' hand rested possessively over Asher's heart, amber eyes soft but vigilant, a silent promise that he would protect, dominate, and cherish this Omega for the rest of their lives. "You are mine, Omega," Collins murmured one last time, voice low and steady, "and I am yours forever. This bond, it is unbreakable. Our heat, our connection, yours, forever. This bond, it is unbreakable. Our heat, our connection, it will never fade." Asher pressed his forehead against Collins' chest, eyes closed, tears of relief and desire glinting in the corners. "I am yours, Collins. Always." A satisfied smile curved Collins' lips. "Good. That is exactly how it should be." The alpha's hand moved to stroke Asher's hair, pulling him closer. Outside, the city continued its restless pulse, unaware of the storm of desire, power, and love that had solidified within the walls of the Collins mansion. But inside, everything was clear. Collins and Asher were bound for life. Alpha and Omega, owner and possession, protector and submissive. Their world, their bond, their love and heat were inseparable. And as Asher drifted into a deep, contented sleep, he finally understood the truth. There was no fear left, no hesitation, no resistance. He was Collins' Omega, and Collins was his forever Alpha. No one could challenge it. No one could break it, because theirs was a bond forged in fire, in dominance, in desire, and in unbreakable love.